to run this kind of massive organization. But the problem with that is there are a lot of people who are unqualified, right? That's not an argument that's going to stick. So it sure looks like he's going to pass in the Senate. The other question for some of the other nominees is going to be, are they disqualifying? Is there something that they've said or done, ranging from Kash Patel to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to Tulsi Gabbard, that disqualifies them? That's going to be the tougher question to answer in these confirmation hearings, but we shall see. That's all we have for tonight. Banfield.
Hey, everybody. It's been a week. It has been a full week, and I am sorry to report to you that it is not a whole lot better this week than it was last week. California wildfire still burning. Wait. I know you tune into this show for true crime. I know. And I am going to give you some of that tonight. I actually do have a ton of crazy new reporting. I am just going to give you the update as to the new stuff that's happening in California before I do that, because we're still like 13 million people who are under a red flag warning. It's called a PDS, red flag warning, particularly dangerous situation. So we figure that's really critical to tell you, because scenes like this, they're still playing out, and the winds are cooking up again. We thought they'd be bad last night. That forecast pushed more towards today, so that ugliness is now sort of headed for tonight, the 70-mile-an-hour winds. Still have 100,000 people, finding somewhere else to sleep right now. Under evacuation, mandatory evacuation, while firefighters are hillside, literally like David and Goliath fighting with a single hose against that, wildfire. And then we're going to show you the mug shots. I can't wait for this one, of the burglary folks, the people arrested for criminal activity, and the pictures of the tools that they were using. That's all coming up. So here you go. Wall of shame. The accusations are going to start, and we're going to show them. People who allegedly decided it was the right thing to do to profit while other people are running for their lives, dying, or trying to find somewhere else to live. We're going to show those people because that's what it means to me. If you're going to act like that, be prepared to face consequences. Again, allegations till they're proven for sure in a court of law. Okay, also brand new, huge bombshell allegations in a documentary about Diddy. Friends, apparently not friends anymore, talking about the inner circle, the red light. What did the red light mean? It meant sex, they say. It meant underage girls, they say. It meant don't open the door, that sort of thing. So we're going to tell you about those allegations, and then something about his mom. Oof. Once he finds out about this in jail, sorry. He's in a prison, but he's being jailed. Once he finds out about what's being said about his mom, I think he's going to lose his mind. That's coming in a moment. Then another guy who's sharing the same lockup. Luigi Mangione. Got a little news about Luigi Mangione, the CEO killer, alleged CEO killer. Been a little quiet. Obviously, California wildfires have taken a lot of airtime, but there's some news. Harvey Levin from TMZ always gets the biggest headlines, right? And he's got a couple of real bombshells. Guys who traveled with Luigi overseas, lending a little insight as to how volatile he was when they were traveling with him, and some weird stuff that he did. Once he found a book written by an Indian author, what he did with the book, how many of them he bought, and the trip that he took to India. It's all sort of very insightful as we try to figure out with new polls why the majority of young people sympathize with Luigi before the victim he allegedly murdered. Okay, I'm going to start here because we're in week number 2 now of what the LA Fire Department calls, quote, the most devastating natural disaster ever to hit that area. And it's starting to feel like the same way it was when the first week ended. On the highest possible alert, another PDS, red flag warning, that stands for particularly dangerous situation. That's set to take effect overnight when the winds are expected to pick up yet again. But mercifully, today's winds fell short of those 70-mile-an-hour gusts that were forecast. And fire crews made a little headway. And I have got to stress here, a little. They made a little headway. The biggest of the 4 major fires that are now burning, the Palisades, is still just 17% contained. And the smaller but way more deadly Eaton fire, that one's only 35% contained. The known death toll from both fires has shot up, sadly. It's 25 people now. Almost 90,000 residents of LA County alone are under mandatory get-out orders. I also need to update another key figure. In the past week, police have made more than 50 fire-related arrests. And to show the public just who it was that wanted to profit from everybody else's misery, Santa Monica police released these mugshots, each suspect picked up in an evacuation area on charges ranging from looting to vandalism. And most who were there were violating curfew. So just feast your eyes on these faces, folks. Take them all in. If these guys and this, well, one woman at least I see, they're proven to be guilty of what they were just hauled in for, they are in for a world of hurt and hopefully humiliation. Because profiting when everyone else is dying and running for their lives, well, that warrants a big wall of shame. 6 of these folks allegedly were carrying burglary tools like these, which thankfully Santa Monica police furnished so that we could see them. LAPD has so far arrested 3 people for arson. One of them was actually caught on camera doing it at a park in Azusa, east of Pasadena, and I have it for you. Roll it.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I thought you meant back there again.
Talk about being caught in the act, like right there with the flamethrower kind of thing. In case you're taking issue with the fact that the cop is cuffing a suspect while the fire burns unattended, I want you to take note here. We do not know if the fire crews were already alerted or if they were even already present and just getting ready outside of the camera's frame. We had that image alone and that arrest. Once again, I want to bring in our senior national correspondent, Brian Enton, who's standing by live. All right, Brian, get us up to speed on what you found out tonight.
Yeah, well, the sad news, Ashleigh, is we just got an update from the medical examiner. The death number is now up to 25 people. It seems like it keeps rising every single day, which is unfortunately no surprise because we know there's dozens of people still missing. And as they do these grid searches and search the areas that have burned, they're finding bones and human remains. They're trying to identify them, and then the death numbers go up. So that's an unfortunate new number tonight. We're outside this staging area in the Palisades. You've got firefighters from all over the country now here, ready to go, just waiting for any flare-ups. There was a small flare-up we've heard about near Malibu. That seems to be under control. And you mentioned it. I mean, the winds have not been what were predicted today so far. They've been relatively calm. We haven't seen the 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts, at least in this area, which is such good news for these firefighters. But we're still under the red flag warning, so they've got to be on alert all night long and then also into tomorrow, Ashleigh.
So one of the things that's so fascinating is when you, because you're there, are able to get up close and personal with the firefighting efforts, you also get to see how hard it is to literally put them out. Because just because you don't see flames doesn't mean the fire is contained or out. You can literally be standing on top of it and not know it.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought it was such good news, obviously, that there wasn't flames and smoke, and it's deceiving because the fire still burns underneath the ground. And when you go out there, you feel the heat. I mean, there's so much heat, and you just dig a little bit, and you see the red embers in the roots of the trees and in the soil. We went out with a firefighter today. It's hard to get up into those canyons. You have to go on ATVs if you're not in a helicopter. He took us up. I want to show you this, Ashleigh. With it being red flag warning again. Driving around here, you know, to me it looks better than I expected today. What do you think?
It looks really good. Little bit of a breeze today, but I think Mother Nature's going to turn in our favor, at least based on the weather that we're hearing. So as you can see from up here, it's a little bit of down canyon wind and stuff, and it's blowing up the ash and things. The concern, obviously, is that there's hot spots with embers and stuff, and those embers carry into
I wanted to show you this vantage point. We don't get it very much. We're up here in the middle of Mandeville Canyon. We were able to take this all-terrain vehicle, got a ride from one of the firefighters. But you look out here, the views are insane. Just scorched earth. This is the area that the fire was just so intense, especially this weekend. You can feel the heat from the ground. But at least it appears to me, I mean, the fire is mostly out in this area, would you say, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. It burns so hot and clean that it consumed most of the fuel.
And you may have noticed, Ashleigh, there's almost a reddish tint on the soil on the ground out there. That's all the fire retardant that was dropped over the weekend by the DC-10s, those big jets. Those firefighters working so hard. They work 24-hour shifts. So they're 24 hours on in an emergency like this. And I said, well, can you go take a nap in the truck or rest a little bit? They said, no naps for 24 hours. They've got to be listening to the radio, ready to go. Then after 24 hours, they get to leave, rest for 24 hours, and then they come back on. And that will just continue until they can totally get all of it under control.
All right, Brian, thank you for doing that and also for taking us up there to see firsthand what it looks like when they're trying to put things out. And you're right, it may look like it's out, but it can be very, very deceiving with these high winds. Brian Enton reporting live for us tonight. I just want to add one thing, and that is it's important that the DAs in that area are so fed up with the criminals that have been just a scourge, a thorn in their side. They are now pushing for Governor Newsom to call a legislative session to change the law so that they can make looting during a local emergency a felony that's punishable with state prison, and also put it under like California's 3 strikes law, which basically means 3 strikes, even if it's this last little strike, in you go, sometimes for life, and very hard to expunge your record. So, kudos to them. I have no patience for criminals when people are suffering. Also want to talk about this. We've been off the fire beat for a week. I'm going to step away for just a minute. I will update you more during the show because we have a whole new batch of claims and revelations about P. Diddy that have just surfaced while he's been locked up in New York. So far, he has not lost his home, right? He's been having to rely on updates. He's got a big mansion in L.A. So far, it's, relatively unscathed, but some pretty raunchy claims about Diddy are leaking out of his inner circle while he's locked up. So says a new documentary called Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy on the Peacock Network. Here are some of the new claims. If red lights are on in a studio or anywhere else, they say Diddy was having sex and some of his partners were underage. These are the claims. Also, a former bodyguard claims that Diddy threatened to pimp out female musicians. And his oldest friend says that Diddy's mom, Janice Combs, hosted sex parties in his childhood home, complete with alcohol and drugs. Take a look.
Well, there ain't a Diddy party that didn't turn into a freak off. One of the first times I really started getting close with this guy, he gave us a bad boy gear and he told me that if his blood and he bled out. Bled out. I mean, he's dead. When you're in that situation, you kind of feel forces down. Within months of working with Sean Combs, he started sending me on these missions to do things that were way outside. Yo, go pull up to the club around my house. They got karaoke night. Here, put on your bad boy gear and go recruit some girls, bring them back to the house. I don't know what the real intention is.
I am a civil litigator who has filed several cases against Sean Combs for sexual assault in civil court. I have been sounding the alarm about Mr. Combs for years. He is a man who has done awful things to hundreds, maybe thousands of people.
I'm wilder, I'm crazier.
I want to speak about this now because I witnessed everything.
I haven't said anything for so long, and it's built up. It's been 20 years.
I don't trust anyone. Because I'm afraid that they might come get me for speaking.
For his part, Sean Combs is denying all of the allegations, while his lawyers have put out this statement. Let me read it for you. These documentaries include unchecked claims and provide platforms for baseless conspiracy theories without accountability or evidence. It continues, in the case of the Peacock documentary in particular, the motivations and credibility of those being interviewed must be questioned. Many claim to have knowledge but lack any connection to the truth, while their wild, unfounded theories are cut and sensationalized to appear factual, End of statement. Diddy is scheduled to go on trial for sex trafficking, among many other charges. That happens this spring, but I'm betting on a lot of delays, so don't hold your breath for spring. Stay tuned. Okay, we're going to have to take a quick break right now, but then we are on to some other true crime news that you may have missed, beginning with Luigi Mangione, very possibly the most popular alleged assassin of modern times. A new poll shows young Americans sympathize far more with Luigi than with his alleged victim, the healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. And it raises the question, will a jury feel the same way? When we come back, TMZ's Harvey Levin weighs in on Luigi mania and shares some newly uncovered details about Luigi was up to when he was overseas. That's next. Murder suspects generally are not very popular, at least with the general public. But they don't have to be. They really only need one person on their side, assuming that that person is a juror. And yet most of them don't even get that. And then there's Luigi Mangione. In all the years that I have covered crime and justice, I have never seen an alleged cold-blooded assassin generate the goodwill, admiration, and even hero worship that Luigi Mangione has. His looks certainly do not hurt in this equation. After all, Ted Bundy and Richard Ramirez had their fans too, and those guys were serial killers. But Luigi Mania is also about the victim, who has been depicted on social media as a fat cat CEO of a heartless and faceless insurance company. Some people even joked that in Brian Thompson's case, thoughts and prayers were, quote, out of network, which means Mangione received a hero's welcome when he checked into the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. That's according to the Daily Mail, which also reports that P. Diddy, who's also locked up there, is none too pleased to share the spotlight with Luigi Mangione. Luigi reportedly hired Harvey Weinstein's prison consultant to help him prepare for what likely lies ahead behind bars. But he may want to save his money, because it is kind of starting to sound like he could be just fine. Beyond the prison walls, the sentiment seems to be the same as well. Axios ran a poll last week showing that young Americans sympathize far more with Luigi than they do with his alleged victim. In fact, 81% of the students polled said that they have, quote, an extremely or somewhat negative view of Brian Thompson. The other day I spoke with Harvey Levin of TMZ about all of this and about his latest installment of TMZ Investigates called Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer. It's streaming right now on Hulu. Take a look.
This is one of the most baffling cases we've ever covered here at TMZ.
New secrets.
Luigi had a dark side, possibly stemming from mental illness.
New revelations.
It would bother me if I thought my book had played a role in him assassinating an individual.
New testimonials.
He went to a shooting range in Thailand.
His victim was a symbol.
It's not what he did. It's the reaction of the American people to what he did.
TMZ Investigates Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer. Stream on Hulu now.
I can't wait for the whole thing. Here now is my full conversation about all of this with Harvey Levin. So this is one of those stories, Harvey, that it just defies all other true crime stories. There's so many twists and turns, and yet TMZ has found even more. You have discovered some friends that Luigi Mangione traveled with in Thailand who have quite a few stories to tell.
Oh, they do. So this was back in March. Luigi was in Thailand, and these two guys from Germany met up with him. They actually just met in Thailand, and they hung out, and they traveled together for a week and a half. One of the interesting things was that they were all planning a day at the beach. Luigi instead went to a shooting range, and they found that really odd. And during the trip, Luigi was talking about this book that he was obsessed with. And this kind of gets to what this assassination was really about. Everybody thinks it's about health insurance, that Luigi had a particular grievance about health insurance. It's not true. Luigi's gripe was over corporate greed. Health insurance was a symbol of it, but his thing was corporate greed. And there were 2 books that he got obsessed with. One of them was written by an author in India. And Luigi wanted to buy 400 copies of the book to support the author. He was so obsessed with it. His credit card didn't go through, it got declined, but he was trying to buy 400 books. Not only that, he printed the book out, he annotated the book, and then he flew to India, met with the author to tell him how he could have made the book better. And there's an arrogance to that, but also an obsession. And that's one of the things we found about him, is that he was an obsessive guy, and there is a mental illness based on everything that we investigated. And we went, by the way, we went to Hawaii, we went to Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, Thailand, India, and other places, and talked to a lot of people. There is a mental illness that is underlying all of this with him.
Also, your team has been able to unearth sort of behavioral information about him in high school, where it's quoted as that he had odd episodes, would lash out oftentimes, and yet seemed to be really successful. He's valedictorian at high school.
You know, that's one of the things that fascinated me, too, that if you look at the veneer here above the surface, he had everything going for him. He's a good-looking guy. He's smart, undeniably smart, well-read, successful. But, you know, it's one of the things that I learned doing my job here is that, you know, when you're covering people, there's kind of this gloss and illusion about Hollywood. And it's all none of it's real. You know, it's all imagery. And he was able to compartmentalize his life, or has been able to, where for the most part, he's a fun-loving, smart, engaging guy. And there were signs of what you just said that would erupt from time to time. But he was able to function pretty well all the way through up until months before the murder.
Have you, I mean, listen, I think I know the answer here, but I've got to get it straight from you. Have you been able to process the reaction to this criminal, well, this alleged criminal, the outpouring of love, the social media, the people who are willing to just die for Luigi? I just don't know that I've seen this kind of a reaction in true crime before.
I guess I'm a little bit cynical. So, yeah, I mean, it is upsetting, but not entirely surprising to me. I mean, look, young people, corporate greed is a thing with them, and they are struggling to succeed. And they blame it on the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezoses and people like that, and the healthcare industry, you know, that makes a lot of money, or at least you look at the CEO who made, you know, more than $10 million a year, and they're angry. And so you look at that, and you look at what he did, and the reason he says he did it, and then you have to look at something else. And I think this is really important because, remember, when you look at people under 30, more of them support what Luigi did than oppose it. And I think 80% of that has to do with his looks. He is a really good-looking guy. And, you know, I pose the question to some of these people, if he were ugly, would it be the same reaction? I think there would be some of it, but I don't think you'd see it the way you see it now.
You always make such good points. My great thanks to Harvey Levin. Luigi Mangione's next court hearing, originally set for just days from now, has actually been pushed to mid-February, but we're going to be watching for you, and we'll bring it to you. And be sure to catch TMZ Investigates Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer. It is streaming right now on Hulu. Still to come, surprising new chapter in the story of Natalia Grace. She is that adopted orphan who was accused of posing as a child while allegedly being an adult. Now she's living with a whole new family after a stunning escape from one set of adoptive parents. We're going to show you video of that escape and catch you up on her story and her third family. All next. The new year brings a new chapter, supposedly the final chapter, of what Investigation Discovery has branded the curious case of Natalia Grace. This is the cover of the latest issue of People magazine, showing Natalia Grace with a headline, "Victim or Villain?" As you may or may not know, Natalia Grace is a Ukrainian orphan who's gone through multiple sets of adoptive parents and caregivers since she arrived in the United States some 15 years ago. In the latest installment of her story, it has been revealed that just before Christmas a year ago, Natalia fled her second adoptive family in the dead of the night and is now living with a whole new family. That would be family number 3. But this family isn't entirely new because apparently they wanted to adopt her way back in 2009, but they were turned down. Anyway, it is a bombshell of a plot twist in the story. In the previous season, Natalia's second set of adoptive parents, Cynthia and Antoine Mans, they were portrayed as Natalia's heroes, taking her in after she was abandoned by her first adoptive parents, the Barnetts. The Barnetts put Natalia out for reasons we'll explain in a minute, so get comfy. But the new developments raise all kinds of new and curious questions, like, are the Manses, family number 2, are they really controlling and money-grubbing, as Natalia is now alleging? Or is Natalia the problem? Is she actually the dangerous and disruptive con artist that some of her families are claiming? Has she finally found a real forever home with her new family, the DePauls? Or will this third situation also implode? The biggest question of all may be how a story that, as far as we know, does not include a crime becomes such a true crime sensation. I'll let you ponder all of that while we take a look back at everything that has happened, or almost everything, to bring us to the point we're at now. Adoption is a blessing for all involved, but it's also complicated, especially when the child is from another country and critical details sometimes fall through the cracks. Details like birth dates. An Indiana couple named Michael and Christine Barnett adopted a Ukrainian-born child in 2010. They were parents already, biologically, 3 times over, all boys. They believed they were welcoming a 6-year-old daughter who was born with a form of dwarfism that is often disabling. Her name? Natalia Grace. Presumably, the Barnetts saw at least the possibility of a rocky transition from a Ukrainian orphanage to a series of foster homes to a forever home in Indiana. But they never expected to be in an Indiana courtroom 2 years later, asking a judge to change Natalia's legal age from 8 to 22. Almost from the start, they suspected their new addition was much older than the adoption papers stated. She had permanent teeth, the couple claimed, and pubic hair, and she had started her periods. Quote, her records were falsified, Michael declared in a TV interview, and quote, this is an adult masquerading as a child, end quote. The court granted their petition. 1 year later, in 2013, Natalia Grace's forever home became her former home. The Barnetts moved her out and set her up in her own apartment. And then Michael, Christine, and the 3 boys, they all moved to Canada. Their eldest son, Jake, is autistic, but a math and science savant. At 15, he started graduate studies in theoretical physics in Ontario. Christine wrote a whole memoir about him called The Spark, and he was profiled on 60 Minutes.
For Jake, fun is reciting from memory the infinite series of numbers known as pi.
3.14159265358979323846264338327. For Natalia Grace, the Barnetts were a fading memory. They'd cut off all contact, and the reason wasn't a mystery. Not to Natalia, anyway. But the world wouldn't learn for another 6 years exactly why the Ukrainian special needs orphan was disowned. In 2019, the state of Indiana charged Michael and Christine Barnett, by then divorced, with neglect of a dependent. And the floodgates opened. The former couple went public with bizarre allegations that the little girl they'd adopted, hobbled by dwarfism, not only was a grown-up, but a sociopath, they said. They called Natalia, quote, a con artist who supposedly tried to kill Christine at least twice, first by poisoning her coffee.
Natalia would do things like place clear thumbtacks on the stairs face up so that when we would walk up the stairs, we would be stepping on thumbtacks to pain and injure ourselves. She had attempted to kill my wife for the second time, this time by trying to pull her into an electric fence.
She was hiding knives in our couches. She was talking about she was going to kill family members. She's standing in the middle of the room and she would say, I'm waiting for the right time. She poisoned people. She put chemicals in the coffee.
Natalia denied it all.
Did any of that happen?
No. She said that I hid knives on top of the fridge, under the fridge, in the cabinets, even on her office desk.
How did you get something on top of the refrigerator?
I can't even reach it. Not even with a chair, I couldn't reach it.
Natalia sat down with Dr. Phil the year the Barnetts were charged.
Did you ever want to stab them?
No.
Did you ever make plans to stab them?
No. If I ever went in the room, it was to wake them up because I was either scared of a nightmare or something like that. But I never went in their room. I didn't.
For Michael Barnett's trial, the state tracked down Natalia's birth mother and determined that if the backdated birth certificate was right, if Natalia really had been born way back in 1989, as the probate court had ruled, instead of 2003, as the adoption papers said, then her mother would have had to have given birth at the age of 10. An investigation discovery docuseries called The Curious Case of Natalia Grace took the further step of DNA testing Natalia herself. Their findings? She probably was closer to 9 than 6 when the Barnetts brought her home, but she was nowhere near 20. The jury found Michael not guilty of neglect, and the charges against Christine, those were dropped. In the meantime, Michael would blame his wife for everything.
I had the same monster you did. I was exceptionally controlled and put down and threatened, was minimalized. Anything that was who I was ripped from me, and I was guided and instructed to be exactly what she wanted me to be. I tried to leave her no less than 10 times.
Michael and Natalia sat down together for the first time in a decade as part of this year's sequel to the Curious Case documentary called Natalia Speaks. Christine Barnett did not appear, but was very much part of the narrative.
Christine said that adopting me was this mission of love. And never once did I see any love. I feel like it was a mission of boosting her ego.
With cameras rolling, it was Natalia's turn to make accusations. She said Christine beat her and pepper sprayed her, and then invented new forms of cruelty.
Just looking at the house, it just reminds me of when Christine had me walk all the way around the block with no shoes. And my feet were bleeding by the time I got to the steps.
Wow.
And she was mad about it.
In a Facebook post, now deleted, Christine denies, quote, any abuse of Natalia, end quote, and says Natalia remains, quote, a very much loved and cared for member of my family, end quote. But she doesn't take back any of her accusations, and in the very same post calls Natalia, quote, a sociopath. In 2023, Natalia Grace was adopted again by an Indiana minister named Antoine Mans. and his wife Cynthia. The Manses had taken her in a decade earlier, soon after the Barnetts had put her out.
Get that impression.
They all appeared together on Dr. Phil, and Cynthia testified on Natalia's behalf at Michael Barnett's trial, which made an unexpected phone call to the producers of the ID series even more of a bombshell. Just days before the premiere of Natalia Speaks, Antoine Mans told the producers, quote, "Something ain't right with Natalia. This girl is tweaking," end quote. The phone call aired in the final moments of the series' final episode.
If she would answer us, we have held her hostage, made us look like we're the enemy.
Natalia stabbing her family in the back over a complete lie.
We're done. Yeah. We're done with her.
But then, another 180. The very next week, Cynthia Mans told an interviewer, and I quote, "We are absolutely perfect. No, she doesn't live with us, but we are fine. We gonna make it," end quote. And Natalia Grace? She's fine too, or so she says. On January 5th, she told her Instagram followers, "Thank you all for your support and prayers. I wish I could tell you more, but I signed an agreement with the Curious Case show to keep things confidential for now. Just know I am okay. Love y'all. Hashtag safe. Hashtag living my best life." And we now know that she's been living that best life with Vincent and Nicole DePaul, a couple with dwarfism like Natalia, whom she's known for more than a decade. There's also a boyfriend who lives in the UK and whom Natalia met online. And accusations that the Manses were only using Natalia and their many other adopted kids for money. Again, accusations. And Natalia's sudden move from family number 2 to family number 3 just before Christmas a year ago, well, that was the stuff of spy movies. Take a look.
Oh, come on, Natalia. Oh, there she is. There she is. There she is. She's confused. Can I help her? Gotta do this quick. Hi, Natalia.
This is our driver. My home's safe.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
I know I'm just not know it all right now. I'm freaking out. You okay? No. It's okay.
I know. It's just really hard. I know. You need help? Okay. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love you. I love you.
Oh my God. I'm hyperventilating right now. My dad is gonna snap.
There's so much to talk about there, honestly. But the Curious Case of Natalia Grace, the final chapter, that is streaming right now on Max. Coming up next, it is 2025, a very busy year for true crime. 3 big names, 3 big murder trials are just around the corner. Karen Reed on the left, Brian Walsh in the middle, and Sandra Birchmore, victim, on the right. They are all cases from the same area in Massachusetts, but they also have something else in common. And it isn't good. How the same police officers are linked to all 3 of these controversial cases, and how they themselves may be the biggest problem. Details are next. Okay, so if 2024 was the year of Sarah Boone and the Doomsday Dad, this will be the year of Diddy and Brian Kohberger and the Doomsday Mom. And again, maybe, who knows, could be Menendez brothers' year as well. But there are 3 other big legal dramas that are also on our radar. And I know you know them too, but you may not realize there is a very bizarre connection between them. So Karen Reed is going to stand trial this year for a second time in the mysterious death of her police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Karen, as you know, is accused of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV on purpose and then leaving him in a snowbank to die. But she says she was framed by a crooked cop, more than one. And a jury couldn't decide who to believe, so a retrial is happening And April 1st is scheduled to be the start date. Brian Walsh, he is set to stand trial this fall in the murder of Anna Walsh, his wife. Reminder, Anna's body has still not been found. The police say in the days after Anna went missing, her husband Googled how to dismember and get rid of a human body and how long it takes a dead body to start to smell. Brian's murder trial is set for October 25th. And then there is an ex-cop who is awaiting trial in the killing of Sandra Birchmore, who was a pregnant young mistress. They called it a suicide. They did. The ME and the cops on the scene. But an investigation has revealed that she had been groomed and sexually abused for almost half her life by the very police officers she idolized in a youth program, some of whom were on the scene of that so-called suicide. Well, later they decided it wasn't a suicide. Birchmore was pregnant by one of the cops, a man named Matthew Farwell, when she died. And Farwell is now charged with her murder. And all of these alleged murders happened in Norfolk County, Massachusetts. It's just outside of Boston. But the connections don't stop there. Two of those cases, Karen Reed and Brian Walsh, were worked on by the same state trooper, Michael Proctor. Sort of interesting because Michael Proctor had a pretty rough time on the stand during Karen Reed's trial. He had some texts that were read out. And at one point, no one knew if he was really supposed to read the texts as they were actually written, his own writing, because they were so filthy. So many words you could never possibly say. And he had to ask the judge, am I supposed to yes, you're supposed to really read it. Anyway, tomorrow, Michael Proctor is going to be involved in a hearing in the Karen Reed trial. So we're probably going to hear a few more of those profane readings. I don't know how I'll handle it. I may have to use a few letters like C word and F word and all the rest, but we're going to cover that tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, going to have some fire coverage as well throughout the rest of the week. It's not supposed to be a good night for the folks in California. We are sending our prayers to you and all of our love as well as they continue to try to get back to normal there and save lives. Stay tuned. Cuomo is coming up next.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to News Nation. Before we get to the fiasco that was the confirmation hearing for the Secretary of Defense, in California, we're about to see a most dangerous 12-hour window because of wind. 2 new fires have already broken out in Southern California. The auto fire in Ventura County, that's just north of Los Angeles, right now about 50 acres and under 25% containment, but you got to stay tuned on that because of what's coming tonight. Breaking out just hours ago, the Scout Fire, Riverside, currently covering 2 acres, no containment at all. It's a fresh blaze. That's in the city of Riverside, about 50 miles east. So north, east. Why? Because as the wind whips, you're going to start to see a constellation of combustible situations. The danger to come tonight, 40 to